Hi, I'm Pam and I'm here to talk about video games. Today I'm talking about a metroidvania that people just can't stop comparing to Symphony of the Night. But does it really compare? It's Record of Lodoss War, Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth. This is incidentally one of the worst game names I've ever heard, but I won't hold that against it. Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth was developed by Team Ladybug and released for pretty much everything over the course of 2021. I played it on Xbox. This is a metroidvania where you play as the high elf Deedlit, who finds herself in a strange, glitchy labyrinth where she keeps running into past companions and foes. Record of Lodoss War is a series that spans many types of media. It started with a tabletop role-playing game, was a series of novels, manga, and anime. It's been adapted into video games almost a dozen times, most of which only came out in Japan. I knew very little about it before playing this game. After playing it, that hasn't changed. While you run into a number of characters from the books and have short dialogues with them, there's very little story told here. Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth clearly looks a lot like Symphony of the Night and was inspired by it, but is it really a similar experience? Yes, but also no. It's clear that Deedlit looks a lot like Alucard. She's got the same flowing silver locks and cape, her movements are similar, she's got the backdash going on. Even the afterimage of her stays on screen after she's moved, though here that effect is extremely exaggerated. The gameplay style is also similar, allowing the player to level up as they defeat enemies, and find a variety of power-ups including bonuses to max health and mana, and new spells to use. There are also a variety of different types of weapons that you can find in the world or buy from a vendor. The influence of Symphony is very evident, even the first few music tracks are similar. But Deedlit also brings something new to the table. Or rather, something borrowed from another great game. The treasure shoot-'em-up Ikaruga was also an inspiration. You have two elemental spirits, a wind spirit which allows for levitation, and a fire spirit which increases your attack power, and you can switch between them with the press of a button. Having the correct one equipped will allow you to absorb damage of that element. Each of these also has a power meter which fills as you attack with the opposite spirit. When at full power, your health will slowly regenerate. I really enjoyed this mechanic on boss fights, which I'll talk about more soon. But while exploring and fighting common enemies, I honestly found it a bit fussy and annoying. Having to switch to wind every time you want to jump a little higher, or finding an enemy that is immune to one element didn't add a whole lot to my experience. There are a few platforming segments that challenge you to some quick switches, and those parts are okay. They at least seem a little more purposeful. There's one last mechanic that shows up occasionally, and that's ricocheting arrows off metal platforms to open doors or rotate blades to allow you to slide under them. Your bow can also come in handy for combat. The boss fights are the most interesting part of the game to me. While they are on the easy side, there is a lot of variety to them, and this is where the spirit mechanic really shines. You'll be fighting leviathans and dragons, spirits, demon gods, and other humanoids. Here, it's exciting to swap between wind and fire, as you'll often have unavoidable waves of attacks coming at you that you need to be able to absorb. Some abilities are avoided by levitating over them, while that extra power from fire is always useful. What's really great is that there's a lot of give and take to these fights. While you're learning enemy patterns, you can easily get low on health, but by strategically swapping between spirits, absorbing damage, and getting hits in while you can, the health regeneration mechanic can get you topped right back up. Boss rooms are also the place where you get the most room to move around, and Deedlit feels wonderful to control. She's quick, smooth, and agile, her animations are pristine. While the platforming overall is very solid, the more free-form movement during boss fights is where things really felt the best. Many of the fights can be made much easier by using potions and spells. As long as you've got the cash, which you undoubtedly will, you can buy all the health potions you want. You can use them during fights to prevent you from death and having to return to the last save point. There are also a handful of spells of different elements to choose from, which can be pretty clutch. I never really felt the need to use anything other than the one you start with though. It's cheap, mana-wise, it'll hit what's ever in range, and I think I only ever came across one enemy that was immune to it. Of course, this does mean that finding new spells as you explore isn't all that rewarding. And this brings us to the place where I take issue with the Symphony of the Night comparison. Symphony has one of the most well-designed maps I've ever explored in a game. Each area is so cohesive, filled with special little touches and details and meaningful secrets everywhere. The Wonder Labyrinth map is just not special. It's nice, it has very pretty pixel art, but it mostly just serves as a background for the action. No area really stands out or is memorable in any way. It's mostly a series of rooms with slightly different colored stonework. Sometimes there are outdoor areas with trees and waterfalls in the background, there's a bit with lava, but when compared to Symphony of the Night, they all seem a bit lifeless. There are ability gates in the game, like needing a double jump or the bow to access certain areas, but what's mostly blocking your progress is different colored doors you'll be able to open once you've found the proper key. I do like that the map is all quite compact with many ways to get between the different areas, but I rarely felt like any of the discoveries I made were all that exciting. Secrets are always hidden behind a crack in the wall that you can destroy with an arrow. You're usually finding things like spells you probably won't use, weapons of which there are too many, and some extra health which can be nice but isn't all that important with the regen mechanic and general lack of difficulty. There are actually a lot of mechanics going on in this game, but the experience is very smooth and you don't have to think about anything too hard. I didn't even realize until after I had beat it that you lose experience each time you die. Or that the dice rolls that show up when you're fighting something are showing you the enemy's strengths and weaknesses. Not knowing these things did not impact my experience in the slightest. I generally enjoyed the 5 or so hours I spent with Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth, but it's not an experience that's going to stick with me for long. If you're looking for a solid, bite-sized metroidvania that has fun combat and movement abilities but won't offer too much of a challenge, Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth is a good choice. However, I would discourage you from going into the game with the expectation that this experience will be comparable to Symphony of the Night. This is a very competent game, but not a particularly memorable one. If you can't get enough Metroidvanias, I have a whole playlist of reviews and rankings. Check out some of those. I also have a Patreon if you want to support my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.